Welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Trey. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show this week. We have got an absolute banger of a show lined up for you this week. We've got the legendary Tim Brown on the show, talk a little bit about his career, including winning a little thing called the Heisman Trophy, being an NFL Hall of Famer, and the work he's doing as commissioner of the Arena League. So it's awesome to chop it up with him. Only scratched the surface of his football career and talked a lot about the Arena League and some of the cool things that they're doing, and hinted at some possible expansion news coming on the horizon, and gave a nice little preview of what's to come. And I also pitched him some of my ideas for some potential rule changes that, no bad ideas. Let's hear it out. So it was fun chopping it up with Commissioner Brown, and it was a blast, and very thankful for the opportunity. So big shout out to the Arena League for hooking that up and making that happen. But before we dive into that, we're gonna plug socials really quickly. If you don't already, please make sure you're following us on all the socials at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB. We're everywhere. We're X, Instagram, TikTok, all the things and stuff. Go give us a follow on there. Come join the conversation. Come say hi. Let me know what you think of this episode. Let me know what you think of the interview with Commissioner Brown. And if you're watching on YouTube, hello, thank you for being here. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel, liking the video, sharing it with a friend, and in the comments, comment who you think is going to win Arena Mania. That is the TAL Championship, or not the TAL, the AL. The Arena League Championship is Arena Mania. Let me know who you think is going to win that game amongst the four teams that made the playoffs. We got Duluth Harbor Monsters, the Ozarks Lunkers, the Hot Springs Wise Guys, and then the Iowa Woo. So let me know in the comments who you think is going to emerge victorious in that. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please make sure you're going to the show page, rating it 5 stars, liking the episode, and sharing it with a friend as well. And if you're rating the show, please leave a review. Let people know what they're missing out on. That way we can continue to grow this thing out and make this thing as big as it can be and grow the game of arena and indoor football. Because that's the goal of the show, is to give the sport the love that it deserves, and provide a platform to talk shop about it and, help grow the game. So let's not waste any more time. Here's the interview with Commissioner Tim Brown. All right, on the show this week, we have a Heisman Trophy winner, an NFL Hall of Famer, and he is the commissioner of the Arena League. We've got Tim Brown on the program. Commissioner Brown, appreciate you taking the time to hop on here. How are things in your world as the Arena League playoffs are now upon us?
Man, I tell you what, man, it's been a real exciting year. I cannot believe we are already at the playoffs, man. It seems like just yesterday we were talking about, hey, the first game, and my travels and all that. But no, it's been an amazing summer, man. And I'm always really just shocked, man, to see how hard these guys play this game and how into it they really are. Right. It's really a lot of fun to see, and I hope the fans have enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about arena football in general, is that the guys who play it, they're hungry for the game. They want to succeed, and you just see it every single play out there.
No doubt. No doubt about it. It's when I first got involved, I was like, "Am I taking advantage of these kids?" But, it was amazing how game after game that I was going to, I would have 2 or 3 kids that come up to me and say, "Hey, man, thank you. Right. If not for this, then I don't know where I would be." And it just sort of made it all worthwhile, and really made me, dig a little deeper to see what I could do to help.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure we're only scratching the surface of what this league can be. Sure. On the show, we typically dive into people's origin stories, but with football and their journey. But we could spend days and days and days and spend way too much time talking about your entire football journey. And we'll dive into a little bit of it. We'll dive into the Arena League in a little bit. But I was reading a story about how you had to sneakily start playing football in high school initially, and it obviously all worked out in the end with the accolades. But tell us a little bit about that, and how mom wasn't really a fan at first.
Mom was not a fan at all of football. She's a very religious woman and thought sports was the devil's workshop. Thankfully, I had a dad who didn't think the same way.
Yeah.
No, look, I was in a marching band my freshman year, so I was going to all the Friday night, Thursday night football games. Yeah. So my sophomore year, I made the varsity team, And so obviously I was, at the games, and I had a great first semester, first September, first month of the season,
Mm-hmm.
and they named me sophomore sensation, right? And it was in the newspaper, and her friends were calling saying, "Girl, Timmy's in the paper," and
Uh,
so she's looking in the life section like, "What did you do? What did you do?" So I said, "Mom, you probably should look in the sports page, and
yeah.
so anyway, yeah, she did, and she was just as mad about that, right?
Yeah.
But my dad and her had a conversation, man, and it really never came up in a negative way again. She
Right.
just always wanted me to, after every year, are you done with football now? Are you done with football now? Up until my 17th year in the NFL, she did the same
Yeah.
thing. So,
It's like, Mom, we're 2 decades into this.
I
I'm
mean,
still not done.
can we
Yeah.
please move past this, please?
Yeah, that's an incredible story. So you went from not even playing football your freshman year, like you said, to getting a full ride scholarship to Notre Dame. What was that process like, and how'd you end up choosing Notre Dame over some of the other options you had on the table?
Yeah, well, at that particular time, man, there was a lot going on in the Southwest Conference, and most of it was not good, right?
Yeah,
SMU was playing pretty good football, so that was a team that I was very interested in, and probably would have gone there if not for the incidents that happened, right? And
right.
my brother, who is about 8 years older, man, he wasn't playing around, and anybody who was trying to do anything illegal got kicked out immediately. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that is most of the Texas, all of the Texas schools, and everybody except my five schools were SMU, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Iowa. And it came down to Notre Dame and Iowa because everybody else was cheating so bad that we just he just didn't think it was a good thing for me to be associated with that. And but Notre Dame was always very high on the list.
Yeah.
My family, when I left to go to Notre Dame, my mom and dad said, "Hey, boy, there's no future in football for you. You go up there and get that education and get on back home." You
Yeah.
know, I think I left ND with a goal in mind, uh, a goal that I thought that would lead to a successful life. But it just so happened that this football thing took over.
Yeah, it helps when you're pretty good at the football thing. It helps. Yeah,
You know,
I'm sh
but I really didn't know how good I was, right?
right,
Because I was on a high school team that won 4 games in 3 years.
right.
And my freshman year with Notre Dame was not a really good year. First time I ever touched the opening kickoff of the very first game, I fumbled the opening
Oh no.
kickoffs.
Oh no.
So with the struggling coaching staff, obviously they wasn't looking to me for plays or anything.
Yeah.
So I got in, where I can get in, and made a couple plays that year. Made a couple more plays my sophomore year, and really felt good about my position, thinking, okay, well, this is how college football goes.
Yeah.
I'm playing, and hey, I'm on time to graduate. Let's just move on.
Yeah,
And
right.
Coach Hills came and just changed all that, man. Just changed the whole deal around.
Yeah, no kidding. And I'm glad your brother was there to help you out and protect you a little bit. But it had to be flattering that all those teams were willing to do all those illegal things to try to land you. You were like, "Oh, this for little old me?" Like,
Yeah, I think, man. Look, I go to basketball games, man, and these coaches be like, "Hey, go see this guy in the corner. Go see that guy." You shake somebody's hand, you got $1,500. You got $2,000.
uh-huh.
I mean, I'm 16 years old, walking around with $5,000 cash in my pocket, bro. I don't.
Crazy.
I have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
So I never told my brother about that until later on because
Yeah.
he would have killed me and everybody else around us. So but yeah, it is a flattering deal, but when you feel like, I tell this story about, and I won't go into it, it's a pretty long story, but basically I ended up at SMU. My high school principal, who was a SMU alumni, I didn't know that, um, and ran the clocks for SMU football, took me over there when he was supposed to be taking me home.
Oh
And
no.
And, so after that, my brother was just like, livid about, hey,
Right.
this can't happen anymore,
No.
but, you see people doing things and you sort of feel like, wait a minute, this is not right. I
Yeah.
just didn't feel like me being over there at that time was right. And so, you live and learn, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Well, obviously, great career at Notre Dame. You end up winning the Heisman in 1987. Tell me about that season in particular. And you mentioned Coach Holtz kind of coming in and helping right the ship a little bit at Notre Dame. What do you remember most about that time?
Yeah, I mean, when Coach Holtz got there, after 2 days of practice, he pulled me over and asked me a litany of questions, basically all centered around why wasn't I playing more, right?
Yeah.
And I kept telling him, look, they just didn't play me. He was like, look, there's
Yeah.
no coaching staff in America dumb enough not to play you. You tell me
Yeah.
what the real reason was. Was it grades? Was it drugs?
Yeah.
Did you have too many women? You tell me what the problem was. And I
Yeah.
was like, hey, coach, none of those problems are going on for sure. And,
Yeah.
so every day, man, he would bring me in and show me what I was doing on the field and things he wasn't asking me to do that I was doing, and he was, why are you doing this, why are you doing that, and he
Yeah.
finally said to me, he said, son, I think you can win the Heisman Trophy. And it was
Wow.
just me and him in the room, but I thought somebody else had walked in the room because I turned around like, is there somebody else in here?
Yeah. Who you talking to?
uh, right. I said, coach, hey coach, hey, maybe I should tell you this. I said, look, when I told him a story about what my parents said about, um, look, there's no future in football, and he literally put his head in his hands, and said to me, son, you can have both, you know, and
Yeah.
I had never been told that. I had never even thought about that. I had always focused on the education part. Now I was doing everything I could do on the football field, but
Right.
it just wasn't my focus. And I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that just unlocked another door for me. And I felt like, under Coach Oates, I could do anything I need to do on the football field. And he was going to put me in a position to do that. And he told me that. He told me, hey Tim, unless they figure out a way to intercept a snap for center, you're going to get the ball.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of confidence from a coach like Coach Holtz at that time meant a lot to me. And I just felt
Yeah.
like I just had to go out and do what I could do on a football field.
Yeah. No kidding. And it might be easier to list the things you didn't do on the field rather than the things you did. Like just because you were out there doing return duties, running the ball, receiving the ball. I'm sure if the Wildcat was a thing, they would have lined you up at the Wildcat a handful of times. But you ended up getting selected by the Los Angeles Raiders, where you had an incredible career. What was that transition like going from college to the pros for you?
Well, one of the things I kept hearing was, "Hey Tim, you're not going to be able to do some of the things you did in college,
Right.
in NFL. So are you ready for the adjustment?" And of course, I didn't know what they meant, and I knew the game was, bigger, faster, stronger, that whole deal. But I thought I was born to return punts and kicks. I really did. And my
Hmm.
agent I had at the time, I would tell him that, look, if I don't do anything else, I think I can make a living returning kicks and punts in the NFL.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I touched the ball in the NFL, the very first kickoff of my rookie year, I returned it for a touchdown, and so, for all the naysayers out there, I may never do it again, and I didn't ever return
Yeah.
a kick for a touchdown again. But because that was my last year of doing it full time anyway.
Yeah.
I only did it one more time after that, my second year, and I tore my knee up, and that was it. So
Yeah. Wrap it up.
they never let me return kicks anymore.
Yeah.
But I return punts, all the time. So,
Yeah.
so I think for me, the adjustment was that mentally I had to just, understand I could be who I was, and I didn't have
Yeah.
to try and change myself and be somebody else. Just go do what you've always done, and let's see what happens. And
Yeah.
my rookie year went great. After the injury, obviously there had some major adjustments that have to happen, but that was '89. By the end of '91 season, I really felt like I was back to the old Tim, and '92 season was a lot better than I went on the epic run of 9, 10 years with the 1,000 yards and 85, 75 catches, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that was a big time for me. So
Yeah, from that first touch in college being a fumble to the first touch in the NFL being a touchdown, that's growth.
right, right,
That's
right,
that's
right.
growth.
It's I think the God above knows what you need.
Right.
And that confidence is something else, man. If it's like standing over a 4 foot putt, right?
Yeah.
When you're confident, you're gonna knock it in the back of the cup. But when you're not, you don't know where that putt is going to go.
Yep.
So, and that's how I sort of felt on the football field. I just felt like at times, I could do whatever I need to do.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, a long career in the NFL, and obviously we're able to do it for at a high level, not just be there, but you're able to be impactful for such a long time. What do you like contribute the most to the longevity of your career? Because if a player makes it over 10 years, that's one heck of an accomplishment. But you were able to play for what, 16, 17 years?
Play 17 years, yeah.
Yeah,
I think, man, there was nothing more important than the game to me.
right.
If the family was okay, I got married at 30. I mean, one of the big things that I discussed with her is, please allow me to be me during the season. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't need to be fighting and arguing about this or that. It may not make any sense to you, but it's worked. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and obviously, she did an incredible job of allowing me to be me, and helping me out whenever I needed that, which was obviously just made me feel bigger and stronger about everything that I was trying to accomplish. But I just think, man, this game is such that if you cannot give 100% to it, there's going to be a problem. 99 and a half, sometimes it's not enough. I
Yeah.
mean, because that half percent can sneak up on you and make you look real bad, and I knew going into every game that I was prepared. Nothing that happened during the week. I felt good mentally. I was strong enough, and physically I felt good. And I was able to stay after the big injury that I had. I missed one game, in '91 because my hamstring was a little tight. I could have played, but they held me out. But I didn't miss a practice in 15 years, man.
Wow.
And in the off season, man, when it was time to work out, I worked out.
Yeah.
If I was a 3-day workout, a 4-day workout, 5, whatever it was, I got it done. And
Yeah.
I probably can count on both hands the workouts I've missed in 17 years.
Right. Yeah.
And I just think that kind of dedication pays you well in certain times. And for me, that happened on the football field.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we could spend days and days and days talking about your NFL career, but fast forward a little bit to 2023, you become the commissioner of the Arena League. How did that opportunity come about, and what was it about the league that made you want to become a part of it?
Well, I had been a part owner of a arena football team in Frisco, Texas, way back in, God, I guess it was 14, maybe right before I went into the hall,
Hmm.
15. And the guy, Tommy Benizio, had called me a couple years prior and said, hey, look, there may be another opportunity. There's a guy who's looking at starting the league, all this. Yeah, 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 right. Call me when it's done, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so Tommy called me up and said, hey, man, we're ready. And we want to announce you as a commissioner of the league. And we hadn't talked about my role, but I thought that was sort of like the perfect thing for me. Instead of being locked into one team, I would now have the opportunity to go and visit other teams and talk to the kids on every team. I just felt like that was a perfect role for me. So and we just jumped in, man, and tried to help as much as we possibly can, and helping bringing in potential owners, and looking forward to expanding. I think our guy Jeff is he's a gunslinger, man. So
Yeah.
we may go from 10 to 30 teams under him, maybe the
Yeah.
next couple of years. But I think it's a beautiful thing, man. We give kids another opportunity to play this game at a high level. to have somebody cheer them on and pat them on the back and say that that's the way to go. And I think that's very important, man. So I think,
Right.
whatever role I play, I'm just trying to make sure these kids have that opportunity to walk away from the game the way they want to,
Yeah.
because that's a big, big issue with these players, man. You 45, 50 years old, and you still talking about you coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? What
Yeah.
you coulda, shoulda done, woulda done, but so for these guys, hopefully they can answer all those questions and, be at peace about their future.
Yeah, yeah, giving them the opportunity to, show what they got. Because that's the common theme
Yeah.
whenever we have players on the show is they're saying, I didn't want to be out of football for a year, 2 years,
Yeah.
and then you might never get that opportunity again. So you
Yeah.
just got to continuously show what you got. And these leagues like TAL do a great job of that.
Yeah, this game is not one that you want to get away from the contact for a year and then try and
Mhm.
go back to
Yeah.
it. So, you may be able to do that in other sports, and I haven't heard of much success even in those sports, but
Yeah.
certainly in this sport where you used to bang it and bang it and bang it, and all of a sudden you take a year off, when you get back to
No.
banging, it's going to feel a little different, no doubt
Yeah,
about it.
it's gonna be a brand new pain.
No doubt, no doubt.
So what are one or two things that you wish you could go back and tell day one Commissioner Brown about the role, about the league, about the industry that you wish you knew when you started?
You know what, man? I don't. I'm not good at. People ask me that. What would you do? Differently about
Hmm.
um, your career and all this stuff. And I'm just a believer that what God has for you is for you, right? So
Right.
I think I have done everything I could possibly do in this league to help these kids out, and that's my main goal. I'm not so much worried about the league. I think Jeff and Tommy and Ronald, these guys, they do an incredible job. My concern is, I mean, there were certain things I see at the games, and I make sure that that team is aware of what I saw.
Hmm.
Maybe it's the way a kid is interacting with the fans, or just little things.
Yeah.
I saw one game. I saw a coach. A player said he was hurt, and a coach just made him feel like he was beneath the ground. And the kid, put his pads back on, went back out there, and you could tell he was just in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And so those are the kind of things that I've tried to do to help out, to help the league out, to help these kids out. And I don't know if there's more I could have done.
Right.
Um, I think my role has been defined for me, and I've tried to do the best I possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. And the league's in a good spot and only getting
Yeah,
better, it seems like year after year.
yeah.
How would Tim Brown, the player, have fared in arena football with TAL rules? You thrived in open space, but these combines are a little more narrow.
Yeah, it's I was really good at making people move, man, make people miss, I should say, and
Yeah.
all that. But um, that field, man, is a little narrow,
Uh-huh. Yep.
because you make somebody move and somebody else is right there.
Yeah.
You make somebody miss, I mean, and somebody else is right there, and then once you think you get around that, there's a boarded wall
Uh-huh.
that you have to be aware of. So, look, I think I would have, given it my all and certainly had some success, but it would have been a lot difficult, a lot different for sure, because I think
Yeah.
that this game is, these kids, what they're able to do is really remarkable.
Yeah. And we've got a really exciting playoffs coming up with the road to Arena Mania. What are you looking forward to the most with the set of games we got coming up?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that we got two repeats from last week. So,
Hmm.
I think these games, man, are going to be pretty good. There's nobody going to sneak up on each other, right? So,
Nope.
I think from that standpoint, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, and it should be pretty good. It should be pretty good.
Yeah, it's gonna be very exciting. I think matchup wise, these are the ones. If we
Yeah.
had to choose in a perfect world, these are the ones we would want.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised by the St. Joe team because they were so good last year.
Right.
It's hard to understand how they fell off so much, but uh, we knew up in Eau Claire it's going to be a little tough for those guys because of some things that were going on up there. But they fought. They were in
Yeah.
games most of the time.
Yeah.
But certainly the four teams who are in the playoffs are teams that should be there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is going to play out.
Yeah. And yeah, seeing those teams, especially like Hot Springs, this is their inaugural season and they're the two
Yeah.
seed in the playoffs. Like they've got a good thing going there. And you mentioned growth earlier on. When it comes to the future of the Arena League, where do you see the league being in 5, 10 years? Like, what's your vision for it?
Well, I mean, that's the thing that we're really going to have to, do a lot of thinking about because, well, of course, we want to grow, right?
Hmm.
But growth means expansion, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't want to expand into the NFL season, right?
Hmm.
Because that's a problem. That's hard because the further we go up in August, probably the less fans we're going to have at games.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the great thing about what we're doing with these teams, we're putting them in cities that don't have, NFL teams. So that
Yeah.
that is a break for us. But with kids going back to school, during this time of the year, it makes it a little tougher to expand. So I don't think the teams would be a problem. I think we'll be able to get, I mean, Wild Man Jeff has plans of 48 teams some kind of way, you know what I
Wow.
mean?
Wow.
All
Okay.
over the country, but I think that, that is certainly doable and plausible. But I think that, it's going to be the only difficult part is, how do we get the playoffs? How do we do that? Do
Mm.
we keep all those separate? And different leagues. I don't know, but so we're gonna have to see what happens. Now we could possibly expand the games up where we start early in May. And
Right.
just deal with what we have to deal with during that time. But I think we're going to have to do something like that if we get to 12, 16, 20 teams and have more than a 1 week playoff and then a championship. If
Yeah.
we go to 2 weeks of playoffs, then we're going to need that extra time.
Yeah. The playoffs lasting a whole month. That's a whole scheduling thing you got to get figured
Yeah,
out. And there's a lot
yeah,
of moving parts with it.
yes, no doubt about it. So I think that's the only thing that we have to. Now we can say, hey, we big boys, and
Yeah.
we gonna do what we do, right?
Yeah.
So, we can certainly do that. And look, I don't think it's beyond Jeff to do that. And we would certainly support him and do our best to make it happen on our end on what we have to do. So we'll
Yeah.
see. But I think next year we're trying to get from 6 to 10 teams,
Wow.
and
Okay.
maybe 12, and we'll just go from there, man, and start working it out.
Yeah, I love the approach the league has taken where last year was like a proof of concept. We're like, okay, we
Yeah,
can do it with four, slowly get to six, and now it's like, okay,
yeah,
we've got the processes in place. Let's scale this thing out. So it's exciting
yeah.
to see it grow in the direction that it is.
Yep, and changing. We made the big change from 6 to 7 players, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big deal. With 707 being such a big term that's out there now with football,
Yeah.
even though that's 707 is flag football, we just thought going to 7 man made a lot of sense, and people understood when you said, "Hey, 707,"
Yeah.
it's 707 football. People get it because they're hearing it now. It's going to be in the Olympics in a few years. So as the years go, the next couple of years, you're going to hear more and more and more. And again, I know we're playing a different game. We're playing, tackle football, but we just felt like, we needed to be mainstream. And
Yeah.
so I think that was a big deal for us also.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's worked out for you guys so well is the fan first approach that you guys really champion and a unique rule set, fan first approach. I actually have a couple of ideas I wanted to pitch you. on like some
Let's do it.
marketing ideas, some rules ideas. So I'll throw the idea out there. You let me know what you think. All right.
Okay, we'll do.
All right. All right. So the first one is a virtual t-shirt toss. Now, every game, there's plenty of engagement where make some noise if you want a t-shirt. What about the people at home? What if there was a QR code on the screen that the people at home could scan? They're entered to win a t-shirt. You pick a winner at the end of the game, and then you mail out a t-shirt, whether it's from the league, from the team, includes the fans at home in that t-shirt toss that gets the people going.
I love it. I love it.
All right, let's go.
All right, number two.
Let's go. Let's keep.
I'm taking a mental note here. Taking a mental note.
All right, let's go. So the next one I got, the next three are all rules related. So this one is called the penalty box. If a player commits a personal foul, they have to sit out one play in a penalty box. And so that team is down a man, kind of like hockey. What do we think?
That one may be a little tougher.
Simply
because and now we're going 7-on-6 and
but it's only one play.
I'm thinking that it would be more harmful for the defensive guy than it would for the offensive team.
Yeah.
I think offensively they could still make a play happen, but defensively they would be dead in the water. But let me tell you this though. There were a couple games early in the season where it felt like the guys were getting out of control, right?
Yeah.
Like
that's
there
how
was
you reel that in. Yeah.
That shouldn't be happening on the field. And it was something that I called the crew about and we talked about we can't let this be turn into some fights and all that stuff just because somebody got a ball knocked down, so we really had to address that early in the season. That could be something that if you do it, you're really hurting your team because this is what's going to happen. So okay, all right. I'm hanging in there.
You see the vision. You see the vision, right? You see it. Okay. So the next one I got is similar. It's called the power play. So it's the opposite of the penalty box. In the final 2 minutes of the game, if a team has a timeout left, they can burn a timeout to get an 8-on-7 advantage for one play. So that introduces a timeout element where you really gotta monitor that.
Is that only the offense can get that, or defense too?
Either or. We're in the idea stage. There's no bad ideas right now. It can be offense or defense.
All right, that's number 3 on the list out of the 3 you've given me.
Okay, that's fair. It's number 3 on my list too.
Okay.
So the last one, I'm a massive fan of the big man touchdown when a big offensive lineman scores a touchdown in arena ball.
Yep.
My proposal is if a big man, I'm talking 300 plus pounds, scores a touchdown, it's worth 10 points, not 6. What's better than seeing one of the big hog mollies catch a fade in the corner of the end zone and you make it worth 10 points? That's pure electricity.
I hear you on that. One of the things that we're trying not to do is we don't want to be the gimmicky. We don't want to be gimmicky. We want people to believe and think that we had to sell people this year on no kickers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a big deal because everybody wanted kickers, and felt like football wasn't football without kickers.
Yeah.
And we've gotten over that hump for the most part. I think people are not missing these kids missing 30-yard field goals.
Right.
That's not something that's been missed at this particular point. So, but I get what you're saying. But I think we can do that without adding the extra points.
That's fair.
And I think we can do that. Now years ago we put when we owned that team, we had a young lady, Jen Welter, who played on the team.
Yeah.
And we tried to get her to score a touchdown. And because she would have been the first woman in the history of the football to score a touchdown,
right?
And the guys on defense weren't playing along.
They weren't doing it.
Oh God, and they rejected her twice, and I don't know how she got up because people were not like, "Hey, just get down." They were like blowing her up,
Yeah, no
So,
kidding. Yeah.
so no, I get that. I get the added. You know, I mean, just putting a big man in the backfield, let him run the ball
Yes.
from 2 yards
Yes.
would be huge.
Yes.
You know, I think everybody would enjoy seeing that. So,
Yeah.
hey, I'm with you. I'm with
We got,
you.
listen, there's no bad ideas. Have
No
your
bad
people
idea.
contact my people. We'll go from there. I think we got something. This was a
Yeah,
good brainstorming session. Yeah.
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So,
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time again. Before we get out of here, what can fans expect from the Arena League moving forward through the end of this year and beyond into 2026?
yeah, man, we're looking forward to the next 2 weekends and crowning another champion. And I think after that, man, it's all about trying to get these teams added again, before the end of the year. And hopefully we'll be able to get at least 4 teams and be ready to move forward with a 10 team schedule next year. And that would be super exciting for us. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I'll have to keep these rules changes that you have in mind
Listen.
when we have our annual meeting in November. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting times for TAL, man. I think we're in a good spot right now. We got a great owner who understands the game and is willing to move forward. Move forward with additional teams, and I just think that's a beautiful thing for
Yeah.
young kids all over the country who want to keep playing this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you need me to conference call into the meeting, just let me know. I'm a DM away. We can make this really easy. Okay.
I'll let Jeff know you have
All
some
right.
good ideas. He may need to hear you out on it, so
All
we'll
right.
do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. Take care. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk soon. Okay.
All right, guys. Take care, bro. Be good.
Big thanks again to Mr. Tim Brown for joining the show and talking to him a little bit about his journey through Notre Dame with the Los Angeles Raiders, the longevity of his career, and then all things the Arena League. Got a really good slate of playoff games up ahead this upcoming weekend, and to be able to hear it directly from him, some of the things that they're working on, some of the trials, tribulations they've experienced, and the real why behind they do what they do with the Arena League is really cool to see. And yeah, I'm excited to see how this league continues to grow and some of the expansion talk that he talked about. Um, Very interesting, and it seems like they like we talked about with Commissioner Brown. They had a proof of concept in 2024. They grew it a little bit in 2025, and it looks like they're going to continue to expand it and grow it in 2026 and beyond. So it looks like TAL is here to stay, and it's going to be a really cool product to see continue to grow and evolve from here. Well, let's dive right into this past week's action, week 9 of TAL, final week of the regular season. For the most part, playoffs were sort of kind of clear. Duluth was definitely in. Ozarks was definitely in. I think Hot Springs or Iowa was on the fence, and then St. Joseph's had a chance to sneak into the 4 spot if they won and got some help. But the playoff teams were decided in the first game. It was the Duluth Harbor Monsters versus the Ozarks Lunkers, and Duluth absolutely dominated this game, 72-38. And quite frankly, it wasn't even that close. For Ozarks, running back Brandon Mackey, friend of the program, he had 16 carries for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns, and it was just a really tough day for this Ozarks offense. And you can't really say offensive line because it's kind of a makeshift offensive line, but they were giving up pressure on the quarterback all day. And Tyler Kolka was just seemed to be picking himself off the turf every other play. And it was tough to watch. Where I was like, man, he can't even get some time. So they're gonna have to make some adjustments very quickly to buy Kolkamania some time to be able to, do what he does back there. He finished the game 26 for 39, 132 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. And he was getting sacked. Seemed like at a certain point, every third play, he was just getting knocked down and he was trying to get up again. And they were keeping him down Chumbawamba. But Devontae Key, he had 10 catches for 42 yards, and Matt Rush, Tom Butters, and Ray J. Johnson Sanders each hauled in a touchdown as well. They got a ton of yardage and a ton of points in garbage time when the game was very much in hand for the Harbor Monsters. But Ozarks, they get a rematch next week in the first round of the playoffs, and um, a few weeks back, Ozarks took care of business and they were able to handle Duluth and give Duluth an L. But Duluth just looked unbelievably good in this game. And defensively, they were just so impressive. They were all over the place. This is a really, really great game plan and scheme by Coach Tony O'Neill, friend of the show, where they totally flipped the script from when these teams played a few weeks back. Defensive lineman Shea Hill, who came over from the Washington Wolfpack from the AF1. He was the AF1 sack leader, if I'm not mistaken. And Michael Austin got after it for this Harbor Monsters defense and really blew up the Ozarks scheme with 2 sacks apiece. The offense did what they needed to do and converted every opportunity that the defense gave them. Javante Johnson, 170 yards, 4 passing touchdowns. Jamal Couch, 3 rushing touchdowns. And Kevin Felder. Kevin Felder's a name that needs to be talked about more and more than it is because he is unbelievable and he looked so explosive when he got to the perimeter and he was just so fast and he looked like he was probably one of the fastest players in all of arena and indoor football across any league. And he was just so explosive. 47 rushing yards and rushing touchdown, 7 catches, 50 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Dan Williams made some tough catches at wide receiver down the stretch as well. So this Harbor Monsters team, they showed why they are the defending champs, why they are the 1 seed, and why the road to Arena Mania goes through Duluth. And they just looked really, really good in this game. And they're going to be a tough out for anybody in the playoffs. They get a rematch with Ozarks next week in Duluth. So it's going to be a rematch of what we just saw in week 9 in this particular game. And for Ozarks' sake, they got to hope that they can come out and start off better and get off to a better start. And for Duluth, it worked. This was a perfect game plan on defense, and they really disrupted things for the Lunkers offense. But the next game we're going to talk about is the St. Joseph's Goats taking on the Eau Claire Axemen, and the Goats won this game 57-40. So unfortunately, wasn't seeing any stats uploaded for this game on the Arena League website. But St. Joseph's, they needed a win badly to help stay alive in the playoffs, and they did their part. They got the win. They needed some help that unfortunately they didn't get in order to sneak into the playoffs after coming into the season with high expectations and a pretty loaded roster in terms of arena veterans. And you go up and down the roster, you're like, oh, they got that guy. Like, oh, they got that guy too. Like, oh, this guy came over after the AF1 season. Oh, this guy came over from this NAL team. So they had quite the roster, but they just couldn't find a way to mix the drink. They had all the ingredients there, but they didn't have a straw that mixed the drink and made everything work together. And by the time they kind of got stuff together towards the end of the season, they were just in a bad way and couldn't catch up. But this was also a rough season for Eau Claire. But they fought until the end and were in a bunch of these games, like Commissioner Brown mentioned, just not the inaugural season that they hoped for. But it seems like they have been able to figure some stuff out off the field that may have prohibited their success on the field. So hopefully in 2026, we'll see a more competitive and a better showing from Eau Claire. Whether they're known as the Axemen moving forward, don't know. That's up in the air. If you notice, Eau Claire on their jerseys, they didn't say Axemen for the past couple of weeks. So might be something going on there. But last game we're going to talk about is the Hot Springs Wise Guys hosting the Iowa Woo, and the Wise Guys won 46-42. So this was a crazy game. Crazy ending to this game. Hot Springs, they were down by 8 with less than a minute left, driving down the field. They scored a touchdown, but they failed the 2-point conversion. So TAL doesn't have kicking, so they couldn't do an onside kick. So instead, they had the opportunity to convert a 4th and 20 from their own 5-yard line, and they got it. They threw basically a rainbow Hail Mary. Wide receiver went up and snagged it, got down to the 1-yard line, and they eventually punched it into the end zone with 2 seconds left to take the lead and snag their playoff spot and eliminate the Goats from playoff contention. St. Joseph's, they needed Iowa to win this game in order to sneak into the playoffs, and that Hail Mary really put the nail in the coffin for the Goats. But Jordan Ambrose for Hot Springs, he was incredible in this comeback. 239 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. And then he was able to find Terrell Brown for 2 touchdowns, and then Torrey Evans and Travion James for the others. And Ambrose, he had another 76 yards on the ground and a touchdown. And this Hot Springs team finishes number 2 in the seeding in their inaugural season. So we see Eau Claire kind of struggling in their inaugural season. Hot Springs was on the opposite side of the spectrum there, where they started off a little rough. They were trying to piece some things together. But down the stretch, they looked really good, and Jordan Ambrose has played really, really well for them. And He's the dual threat type of quarterback that they need and has really been successful in this Bones Bogante offense. But for Iowa, they had this one in their pocket and they just let it slip away. That's as simple as you can put it. The comeback by Hot Springs, it was great, but you can make the argument that it was as much of a Iowa collapse as it was a Hot Springs comeback because this Iowa defense, they just folded towards the end and they gave up multiple big plays and they put themselves in a very bad spot towards the end there where they could have won and won this game and walked into the playoffs with a ton of momentum, but they just couldn't. Quarterback Carlos Rogers had a strong day through the air, 171 passing yards and 4 passing touchdowns with 67 more and a touchdown on the ground. Justin Brown hauled in 2 touchdowns through the air, including an awesome one over the wall, which I put on Instagram in a reel. So go check that out at Off the Wall FB on Instagram to go see that one. And then Vontae Henderson and Jordan Leverett had the others. And this is just an incredibly fun game to end the Arena League regular season and prep us for the playoffs. We get a rematch of that Ozarks versus Duluth matchup that we just saw this week, but we also get a rematch of this game that was very, very fun. Iowa going to Hot Springs. So we get rematches from week 9 in both sides of the bracket, and the winners of those contests will head to Arena Mania to see who will be crowned the champion of the TAL's second season of existence. So really, really cool season from TAL this year, and excited to see how they grow in the offseason and what 2026 looks like for them. We're going to flip over to the IFL now. And just like TAL, the IFL had their last week of the regular season where the playoffs were pretty much determined. Just some seeding was up for grabs. And the first game of the weekend was the Bay Area Panthers going to Massachusetts to face the Massachusetts Pirates. And Bay Area won this game 45-30. For Bay Area, Josh Jones started this game through a 31-yard touchdown pass and was immediately pulled. They had nothing to play for. They were the 1 seed if they won this game. They were the 1 seed if they lost this game. But Liam Thompson came in at quarterback and played pretty well. It was very much a ball control offense from Bay Area for the majority of this second half. And heck, majority of the first half as well. They had 27 rushing attempts versus only 14 total passes. And it was very clear that they were just going to run the ball, eat the clock, and get out of there and travel back across the country, back to Bay Area to be able to prep for their first round matchup in San Jose. Liam Thompson had a pretty good game in this one, all things considered. 69 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, but then 3 touchdowns on the ground with 92 yards rushing. So he stepped in and played his role really, really well, and Bay Area was able to walk into Mass and smack him around a little bit and not even have their foot on the gas all the way, but walk away with a double-digit win. So I don't know if that says more about Bay Area at this point or just how Mass's season came to an end and just came to a screeching halt. But from Massachusetts, Talia Tagovailoa had made the start in this one. Kenji Bahar did not start the regular season finale. They were already out of playoff contention, so they wanted to see what Talia had in store. And this was a rough go, a really, really rough game for Talia. Massachusetts did not complete a pass until less than a minute in the second quarter. So less than a minute until halftime. They went the entire first half without completing a pass, and they were able to gain some yardage on some Talia scrambles here and there, and that was basically their offense, was him scrambling, and eventually when the game was pretty much out of reach, he was able to open things up with the passing game, but he ended up throwing 3 interceptions on the day, and 2 of them went to Joe Fouché, and then the third went to Tyrese Wright, so of the Bay Area secondary, and Talia just had a very rough go, and he kind of got thrown into the fire. Not really his fault, but I will say Massachusetts probably should have turned to him many weeks ago or turned to Felix Harper when they had him many, many weeks ago. It seems like the turning point for this Massachusetts offense when things looked to be at their worst was that Arizona trip where they lost to Northern Arizona and Tucson. Feels like that should have been the time that they pulled the trigger on making a move at the quarterback position, but Mass ends up with a losing record for the first time in franchise history, finishing the season at 7-9. They're on the outside looking in. They will not be in the playoffs, which is shocking for most. But if you watch the Off the Wall IFL preview, you would have heard it here first. So episode 41, go check it out. I called it. But yeah, it was a rough game for this Massachusetts offense and a pretty good encapsulation of this Massachusetts season where the offense really let them down and the defense did the best they could, all things considered, but it just wasn't enough. But the next game we're going to talk about is the Iowa Barnstormers going to the Fishers Freight, and Fishers won this game 81-40. 81-40. So there were points galore in this one. Iowa overs and improved to 13-3 on the year, which is incredible stuff, considering that they finished the season 1-15. They won one game, lost 15 games, but the over went 13-3. That's just wild stuff. It speaks to the volumes of how poorly this defense was, how poorly this defense played all year, and how impactful this offense could be in certain moments. But for Iowa, it was more of the same. Quarterback wise, it felt like we're reading the same exact box score from a lot of games that we've seen from Iowa, where quarterback James Cahoon finishes around 50% completion percentage, gets some big yardage plays with 4 touchdowns, but also a couple of crippling interceptions that really blew this thing out of proportion. Not really much of a ground game to speak of. DeMonte Martin, 85 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Bracey, 61 yards and a touchdown. Keon Williams had 2 touchdowns as well. And offensively, it was more of the same from Iowa. Not a bad game, but the story of the game and the story of the season for the Iowa Barnstormers has been their very lackluster defense. Lackluster is putting it nicely, where they just gave up a ton of points and they gave up a kick return for a touchdown. To Jaron McGaw, and it was just an onslaught for Fishers. Speaking of Fishers, we'll switch over to them. They had 132 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns in this game. So this Dixie Wooten offense is very focused on the ground game and getting folks involved in that. And Felix Harper was a great facilitator for that. And Fishers ends the season on a 5-game winning streak. So they started on 2-game winning streak, proceed to have a 9-game losing streak, and then finish with a 5-game winning streak. So they finished at 7-9, tied with Massachusetts for that 5th spot. I think Massachusetts technically has the tiebreaker over them, but both teams finished 7-9. Dominic Roberto, former Massachusetts Pirate, had 2 touchdowns on the ground. Felix Harper, former Massachusetts Pirate, had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and then Isaiah Coulter, former Massachusetts Pirate, had a receiving touchdown as well. So kind of makes you think, Massachusetts, those offensive numbers would have looked really good on that seafoam and purple field in Massachusetts. But we digress. We digress. But yeah, this is an absolute beatdown by Fishers. They had a crazy pick 6 return by Marcus Gray in the second half, where it was something like straight out of a NCAA game where it got tipped off a receiver. DB caught it, got up, and just ran because he was never touched. And it was incredible stuff, and just a really fun game for Fishers to end the season on, getting a lot of momentum heading into 2026. Strong inaugural season for Fishers Freight, and I'm sure the people of Fishers, Indiana, are pumped for the next season, and they've got a good foundation to build off of, and starting to get some of that culture in place. But if they're able to bring back Felix Harper, that's great news for Fishers. But if they don't, they're going to have to figure out the quarterback situation ASAP as possible, because that was the thing holding them back during their 9-game losing streak. And Felix Harper really came in and was the straw that stirred the drink, not to use that metaphor again, but he was the one that made things happen, even if he wasn't the one scoring all the touchdowns at times. So strong ending to the season for Fishers. Kind of went out whimpering for Iowa, and excited to see what both teams do in the offseason to either build on it for Fishers or blow it up and start over for Iowa. But the next game we're going to talk about is the Green Bay Blizzard versus the Jacksonville Sharks. And Jacksonville won this game 63-53. So heading into this game, I mentioned on a couple, I think it was Shady Sports. Was it Shady Sports or was it this show? I don't know. I do so many shows, it blends together sometimes. But we talked about how Jacksonville's success in this game would need to come through the passing game. Tyler Huff would have to have a really strong passing performance in this game in order for them to win, and he certainly did. He delivered. He had 158 passing yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, finding Marcus Rogers twice and Karan Ashley once. And then on the ground, he was able to be really impactful as well, with 68 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and Larry McCammon was able to score a touchdown. And Jacksonville fell into an early hole. Green Bay kind of pounced on top of them, but they fought back. They got opportunistic turnovers. They had a play that I'm not sure if it was classified as a pick six or a fumble return technically, but Max Myler was getting pressure in the pocket. He got hit as he was throwing, and it just landed straight in a defensive lineman's hands, and he ran it back for a touchdown. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, everything seems to be going Jacksonville's way. So Jacksonville had a really strong performance in this game, and they were able to end their season on a high note and prevent Green Bay from getting that one seed. Green Bay needed to win, and Quad City needed to lose in order for Green Bay to leapfrog them. And Green Bay just couldn't get it done. So Jacksonville heads into the playoffs on a winning note, and they'll face Quad City in the first round of the playoffs. Last time Jacksonville went to Quad City absolutely boat raced them. But then when Quad City went to Jacksonville, Jacksonville returned the favor and boat raced them. So it seems like the home team has the advantage in this matchup, but it'll be a good one to take a look at when we preview the IFL playoff picture. But for Green Bay, tough game to drop. Offensively, they got going early, but they just had a middle 20-ish minutes of the game that was just not great and allowed Jacksonville to not just get back in the game, but take control of the game. Max Myler had some MVP worthy moments, but didn't have his best game through the air. Only finished 11 for 21 for 129 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, 67 more on the ground and 2 more rushing touchdowns. Kimo Clark at running back, 91 yards and 3 touchdowns. And they were able to get things going and make things happen. But they just had some costly mistakes in the middle of the game that really ended up costing them. And they had a chance to take control of the Eastern playoff picture and have the road to the IFL National Championship go through Green Bay, Wisconsin, and they just couldn't get it done. But they'll still have home field in the first round of the playoffs. They'll be hosting the Tulsa Oilers in the first round, and it should be a very exciting matchup and has some game of the year potential if their first meeting early in the season is any indication of how this game could potentially go. Next game we're going to talk about is the Northern Arizona Wranglers taking on the San Antonio Gunslingers. San Antonio won this game 49-30. So heading into this game, I think these teams had a combined 6-24 record. So it was definitely somebody has to win this game. So somebody please just win this game. Wranglers came out and it looked like it was going to be a back and forth game, but the Gunslingers just popped off in the second quarter, scored 28 points, and really took control of the game. And Northern Arizona kind of woke up towards the end, but it was way too little, way too late for this one. Joaquin Colazo ended up throwing 4 touchdown passes, 113 yards through the air. Logan Collier had 2 touchdowns on the ground. They were able to get a bunch of people involved in the passing game, from Glenn Gibbons to Naquan Murray to Logan Collier on the offensive side of the ball, and some decent momentum for San Antonio to end the 2025 season and head into 2026 on a positive note. But for Northern Arizona, this was a tough one. This was a really tough outing. It seemed like it was an audition game for a lot of folks to be able to just go out there and show what they got. Caleb Lowe got some playtime out there, and he ended up throwing 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, but adding a touchdown on the ground as well. And this is just a bad season for Northern Arizona, and they were able to establish some good foundation for the seasons ahead, and we'll see what the future holds for the Wranglers organization, and we'll have to see what they bring back in terms of pieces on offense and on defense. Do they bring back the same coaching staff? What that all looks like is to be determined. But this was a rough game to watch overall. But San Antonio was able to walk away with the win and finish the year strong, because they're in a similar situation to Fishers, where they started pretty strong, had a very, very rough middle 2/3 of the season, but kind of pieced some things together when Joaquin Colazo had a good stretch of games, and they were able to knock off Jacksonville. They were able to win this game. So they were able to get in the win column a handful of times. But the next game we're going to talk about was probably the game of the week. It was the Tulsa Oilers taking on the Quad City Steamwheelers, and Tulsa won this game 49-48. So starting with Tulsa, Sam Casanova, not enough good things can be said about him. He came into this Oilers team. They needed an answer at quarterback. Defensively, they've been able to really keep their team in games, some games that they had no business being in. But this offense needed direction and needed a quarterback to go in and really lead the way. And Casanova, it's no surprise that the AF1 MVP with the Albany Firebirds was able to step in and do a really, really great job. as he got more practice time and as he got more reps with his team in practice, he ended up having 229 passing yards, 5 touchdowns through the air, and then 2 more on the ground, earning Offensive Player of the Week awards in the IFL. Jimmy Smith, aka Trey Smith, was able to get involved in the running game, and Isaiah Scott hauled in 2 passing touchdowns. Max Novak, friend of the program, had two receiving touchdowns. I forgot to say friend of the program for Sam Casanova as well. Forgive me, Sam. I apologize. And then Juju Augustine getting the 5th one. And this one came down to the wire where they were trading blows all game, and it was like who's going to blink first. And Quad City ended up missing a field goal with less than a minute left that would have put them ahead, and Tulsa was able to just run out the clock from there. But yeah, Tulsa ends the season on a 3-game winning streak. They'll be going to Green Bay in the first round of the playoffs, and it's going to be a very fun matchup. Uh, AF1 MVP and Sam Casanova suiting up for the Tulsa Oilers versus the most likely IFL MVP and Max Myler in Green Bay. It's going to be a heck of a game. I'm very excited to see it go down. But for Quad City, can't be too mad at this one because Daquan Neal had a really good game in this. And the moment Green Bay lost to Jacksonville, they pulled Daquan Neal out of the game. They didn't want him to get hurt because they locked up the number 1 seed, and there was no reason for him to be out there anymore, quite frankly. So they kind of threw in the towel, but they kind of didn't. Seth Morgan came in at quarterback and did a pretty decent job, bang up job, 85 passing yards and a touchdown. But that was aided by a crazy touchdown catch by Kevon Rudd, who caught a ball that bounced off of a player that got DPI'd, bounced through the air, and Rudd caught it in stride and just kept going and scored. And nobody knew what was going on. The announcers didn't know what was going on for a second. And you look at the replay, and sure enough, it was a good touchdown. So a little bit of luck there. Seth Morgan getting his first touchdown in this one, but yeah, Quad City, they're in a good position. They had their offensive mojo going. Kyle Kaplan was locked in on the deuce attempts on the kickoff. He had 4 of them in the game, and that really proved to be a deciding factor in this one. But unfortunately, missed that field goal that would have put them ahead and won the game, all things considered. But yeah, both teams are playoff bound. Both teams are looking really, really strong on the offensive side of the ball, and the defenses of these teams are very stout as well. So I would not be surprised if we see this matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals with a trip to the IFL National Championship on the line. But the next game we're going to talk about is the Tucson Sugar Skulls going to Henderson, Nevada to face the Vegas Nighthawks. And Vegas won this game 55-18. So an absolute beatdown here. This game was 27-3 at halftime, and it wasn't even that close. Vegas was just clicking. They were on all cylinders. They could seemingly do no wrong. Jaden DeLaura and Jerome Johnson each got playtime in this one. 5 complete passes for each of them, 4 total touchdowns, 2 apiece. Antonio Wimbush was able to run the ball well. Jerome Johnson was able to run the ball well. Quentin Randolph ended up setting the franchise record for single season touchdowns. He caught 3 touchdowns in this one, and he had a really, really fun celebration for his record-breaking one where he ran across the field, and one of his friends had gold shoes in a Nike box where he busts out the shoes and put on the gold shoes moments after setting the team record. So that was really funny, really, really cool moment. Go check that out if you haven't already. But yeah, this Vegas team looks good. They're in the playoffs. They're going to be facing the Bay Area Panthers in the first round, going up to San Jose to face them. And if you remember, about a month ago, those two teams had an epic duel that went down to a 2-point conversion to end the game, and Vegas wasn't able to get it, and Bay Area was able to hold on. So if we get anything close to that game from a month or so back, we're going to be in for a treat with this game. So I'm very excited to see the matchup here, and excited to see how that game plays out. But for the Sugar Skulls, we talk about Fishers starting the season strong, having a rough middle patch, ending the season strong. This is the opposite for Tucson. They started the season off rough, really peaked in the middle of the season, but then just ended very poorly. Offensively, couldn't really get much going. George Reyna, nine completions out of 21 attempts for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns, and this offense just could not get much going until it was far too late and they were down by 40 points. Rough ending to the season. They just could not get into the end zone at all in this game, and overall, as a unit, they just seem to have fallen off a cliff over the past couple of weeks where they were on the outside looking in. as a sneaky possibility of sneaking into the playoffs, but they fell apart these last 3, 4 weeks of the season and just couldn't get it done. So disappointing season in Tucson for sure. They were able to build on last year where they finished, I believe, what, 3-13. So an improvement, but nowhere near what they could have been or fulfilling their full potential by any means. But the last game of the IFL regular season was the Arizona Rattlers taking on the San Diego Strike Force, and San Diego won this game 46-26. So this was an interesting game where neither team, like Arizona, didn't have anything to play for. They were in the 2 seed, win, lose, or draw. They were going to be in the 2 seed. San Diego, if they lost this game, they think they fall to the 4 seed. If they win this game, they stay at the 3 seed. San Diego was determined to win the game, and it just seemed like Arizona was going through the motions just to make sure nobody got hurt and they got to the playoffs in one piece. So for San Diego, Nate Davis had a really strong game in this one, 217 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. Rudy Johnson, 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground as well. And Shane Hooks was able to haul in 2 passing touchdowns from Nate Davis. And then Arthur Jackson III. He was electric last year for San Diego. He just signed leading up to this game, hauled in a touchdown as well. So if he's able to get hot, if John Maldonado is able to get hot, and Rudy Johnson is able to do his thing as that offensive utility weapon, the San Diego team can be dangerous and can be a very fun team to watch make a run. But for Arizona, not much going in this one, honestly. They kind of made it a game in the third quarter, but San Diego was able to pull away and just do what they need to do to secure the 3 seed and lock in a rematch with Arizona next week, this time in Arizona. So we're gonna have a little Monday night football with between the Arizona Rattlers hosting the San Diego Strike Force this upcoming week. But Shannon Brooks, 8 rushes for 72 yards. Dalton Sneed, 97 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Honestly, not much to really go like take home from this. It feels like if Arizona was still fighting for like that 1 seed, they probably would have had their foot on the gas a little bit more. But the reality is they had nothing to play for and just get out of there injury free, and that's a massive win in every way possible. So yeah, they get a rematch next week, Arizona and San Diego. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a rematch of the Western Conference Finals from last season, where Arizona was just able to absolutely dog walk San Diego in the finals and punch their ticket to the IFL National Championship. So this will be a good one to watch. So as I mentioned, we've got the playoffs locked in. Saturday, 4 o'clock Eastern, we got the Jacksonville Sharks at the Quad City Steamwheelers. Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, Tulsa Oilers at the Green Bay Blizzard. Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern, Vegas at Bay Area. And then Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. Good Lord. San Diego versus Arizona. So some really great matchups there. Make sure you're following us on socials at Off the Wall FB to see our picks, to see some commentary during the game, and join in on the conversation. We love chopping it up with everybody and seeing what people have to say and seeing what people share during the games, get their thoughts, feelings, hot takes, and everything in between. And that's the show. Thank you so much again to Commissioner Brown for taking the time out of his busy week. He's in Canton for Hall of Fame week, that little thing called the NFL Hall of Fame that he's in. So him being able to carve out some time for this show here to talk shop about his career and talk about TAL football was really, really awesome. So big shout out to TAL and Commissioner Brown for that. A big thank you to you who's watching this or listening to this for checking out the show and supporting up to this point. If you're new to the show, welcome. Come give us a follow on socials at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB, on Instagram, X/Twitter, TikTok, all the things and stuff. Go give us a follow on there. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for checking it out. Please make sure you're subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and sharing it with a friend. And comment below who you think is going to emerge victorious in TAL playoffs on the road to Arena Mania. It's going to be a very fun playoffs. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please make sure you're going to the show, rating the show, preferably 5 stars, but hey, do your thing. And then leaving a review as well. That helps people, get an idea of what the show is about and what we're trying to do here. So I'm really appreciative of all the support and everybody that's been a part of the journey here. We're only getting started. Indoor and arena football season's wrapping up, but we've got some things planned for the off season that'll be really, really fun. Do some collaboration with some other content creators in the space. That'll be a blast, and I'm really excited to dive into it. I don't want the season to end, but at the same time, I'm excited for what we have planned content-wise. So only 24 hours in a day. The fact that you chose to spend like an hour and a half here, listening to the interview with Commissioner Brown, listening to the recap of TAL IFL action means a lot. So really appreciate all the love and support. Come say hi on socials, say hi in the comments, do all the things and stuff, and enjoy this upcoming weekend of playoff football and TAL in the IFL. And let's have ourselves a weekend and enjoy the football while we got it before indoor and arena season comes to a close. So take care. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.